This is Octave Leap. Innovation, regeneration, and human optimization.
Hello, and welcome to Tuesday, the day of the week that we have these Octave Leap live streams. So glad to be here with all of you, and I've seen some people have already said hello in the comments. Today is going to be really special because we're going to talk about something we've never talked about on this show before. We're actually going to be moving into a discussion on food today. And I really like the simplicity of the way that our guest described it, because I think, we can get very complicated and very heady about food. And she just kind of stripped it all down to its essence and had a really cool title for today. We had a great little chat before this, and I'm really excited to bring her on. So without further ado, I'd like you all to welcome Judy Koons, the true health detective, to the Octave Leap show. How's it going today, Judy?
It's going great, David. Thank you for having me. I appreciate that intro because it really is about simplifying everything. We don't have to be so complicated. If we can pick it or pluck it, we're probably good. The challenge is we've come so far from picking or plucking that we don't even really know what that looks like anymore. So it's time to get back to it so that our bodies can do what they know to do.
Yeah. I mean, especially confusing for people who maybe have eaten out of plastic or metallic packages for the most of their lives, right? Then picking and plucking is very divorced from their, everyday life. So I'd like to really dive in with a couple things because, I've tried this food thing out. I've tried a lot of different things over the years. And I got to admit, food is one of those things I've thrown my hands up in the air and go, I'm confused. I've tried this diet. I've tried that diet. I'm confused. And I'm kind of at that point where, what you're talking about is actually really interesting to me. One thing I've, heard from people, I don't really have any chronic health issues myself, but I have heard from people when they say, help, I've got a health crisis. I don't know where to start. So they kind of wake up one day, they go to see their doctor, their GP, and the doctor basically, with their 2 days of medical school diet training, aren't very well equipped to help them with their health issues. They tell them it's psychological, and, people basically realize that there's more to the picture. And so in your experience, what's the most helpful area or approach for people to take when they realize something's not right and they want to come back into balance with their health?
Well, you're right in that the medical system, it really doesn't address anything chronic in a way that it recognizes the power of the body. So they have had a few hours of nutritional training, and they're really good at saving lives, right? When it comes to being in a really intense car accident or something, I want the medical system. But when it comes to really expressing health, you want to be able to tap back into your innate ability in the body to express that, not putting more stuff in. What can you get rid of? What can you let go of? What accumulation can you drop so that the innate health has the ability to express itself? So it's not something we're looking for so much as something we're uncovering. And food, nature provides all the food and drug that we need in order for the body to do that. So where can someone start? Well, probably stop searching the internet. That would be the very first thing, right? The mountains and mountains and mountains of information out there, and you can find 10, 20, 100 different lists of healthy foods, and they might have one or two things that are similar, but they're all going to be different. So which one is it, right? Food in its raw nature, when it can be taken from a tree, it's not in packages. Herbs that you can grow yourself or you can buy from the grocery store, when you can buy vegetables that you can either cook or eat raw, you're headed in the right direction. So it's not actually the food pyramid. that's not going to be the most helpful in getting rid of the accumulation that maybe you've been accumulating for 200 years. Most people
Let's
don't
pull up a picture of
so much.
the food pyramid. It's quite comical, actually, because like here, this is a perfect example of maybe where it gets it wrong. So let's take a look here at this. What's at the bottom? I mean, if I ate that, mostly this, I'd be like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. I'd be all carved up and inflamed, and my knuckles would be swollen and sore. I mean, that's terrible advice, frankly.
It really is. And you notice that they've changed it over time. But if you look at the food pyramid, you can see where money comes in.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to just eat a few dandelion leaves as a medicine, who makes the money off of it? There's no advertising to go out and chew on a few dandelion leaves or grab a few for your salad or things like that. And I'm not all about drug either, but I like food as drug until we don't need it anymore. But we're looking
What does
to
food as drug mean? Sorry.
food as drug to me is almost everything that you need has the ability to be provided by nature, that has the ability to grow. And if I really want to clean up some parts of my body, there's a lot of foods or herbs or growing plants that I can use that are going to be more effective that don't have direct effects. So most pharmaceuticals actually have direct effects. They're not actually side effects, they're direct effects. And we want to go back to nature in a way that it stops us from having effects that are worse than what we're taking that pharmaceutical for. So I'm sorry, but I don't want to take a pharmaceutical to help me clear up my skin if it could cause me to have irreparable nerve damage. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And the ability to come back to nature in a way that it allows us to not just deal with the symptoms either. It's going to get to the core, to the root of the reason that I'm expressing it that way. So important. And sometimes it's as simple as just a lemon in your water so that you get bioelectrically alive water so that the water actually gets into your cells instead of just move right through your system and pull electrolytes. And I recommend everybody try that as an experiment for themselves. Drink a bunch of water with nothing in it and see how quickly it moves through you. And then drink some water with a bit of honey and some fresh squeezed lemon or lime. And do that for a week or so and see how much slower that water moves through you. Because water that's dead and not bioelectrically alive is actually going to draw electrolytes out of your system. And then you're left with a deficit instead of an additional piece that's going to help your body to do what it's capable of doing, what it's designed to do.
I believe water that's too pure acts as a solvent in that it leaches out minerals, as opposed to water that contains ions and other minerals actually depositing that into the body.
It's a big part of it. And that's just the biochemistry of it, but the bioelectricity of it. Because if you look at the physical body, there's so much more to it. And we start with food, but we're working towards us being these electrical, magnetic beings. And you think about the physical body or how it's mostly space. It's mostly energy, just organizing all of these little factors. So we're looking to work with that energetic aspect with our foods, with anything we can pick or pluck. And some foods that have been highly packaged or highly processed, there's zero energy. There's zero energetics left in it versus something that you've actually picked yourself. The energetics are huge. Now, we can't all pick it ourselves, but even the foods in the grocery store, the energetics are significantly less because it's been handled, because it was picked a long time, because it wasn't picked right, all those different pieces. But it's so powerful to be able to recognize that food is an energetic delivery system. So are supplements. And that energetic delivery system, you want it to be as powerful as possible in replenishing the energy that you are, this organized, energetic, physical being that you are. Gets a little bit.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes it very attainable too for people, because the way that I like to do things, especially things that naturally I might be resistant to or stubborn with, it's like one small step. I teach cryptocurrency, so when I do that, most people are overwhelmed and they just want one little piece that they can do. You give them one piece, they take that piece, they get the next step, and slowly they make progress. And I kind of feel like that with certain things too. But I like that. It's just like, try putting lemon in your water. Try picking a fresher fruit, either from the farmer's market or the grocery store.
Well, if you can stick to the end of the grocery store where everything's unpackaged and it's actually in its raw form, you're going to get so much more out of what you're doing. Why waste our time, right? Why waste our time? If you want health, if you want to reclaim health, you're going to want to stick to nature's form as close as possible. And farmer's market is going to be better because they picked it that morning instead of last week and then trucked it to wherever you're purchasing it. But one thing at a time. And you just finished a fast, David. I'm guessing that, you did a few other things before you got to that. Just one thing at a time.
Yeah. And, for me, doing a fast was really nice because I find that a lot of the crap drops away, the cravings, that type of thing. I mean, it's a bit difficult. You compress it into a short period of time, you do it, and then afterwards you feel great. And I did want to touch on this though, because everything you're talking about is really, it sounds awesome. Now I'm also taking the stance of, I've been there myself, especially when I was younger, when I used to work up north in Canada. As you're from Canada, that up north in Canada, there is no produce. There's not much available other than, chain restaurants and really nasty stuff at the grocery store. So people can tend to, when you don't have that kind of selection, you can kind of lean on your addictions almost. And I've noticed that there's a tendency for inflammation and addiction to go hand in hand. When people really eat a lot of these low nutrient acid forming foods, they form these patterns and tendencies that are really hard to break. So as much as reaching for a natural food is the way to go, what advice do you have for people for dealing with this combination of inflammation and addiction?
One of the things that it's so important for us to remember is it's never just one or two things. It's always a combination. So the medical system has trained us to come out of this understanding of the body as a whole. And so if we come back to that whole, then we can recognize how inflammation and addiction are a cyclical thing. So the food that you eat that causes inflammation causes you to feel less than well in your body. And then it causes you to attract yourself or come towards that addictive food. And that again, in turn, triggers your adrenals to cause you to have a sense of feeling better. But then there's the crash and the inflammation that comes from that food or from that substance. And then so you are back into the inflammation part of the cycle. And then you use that food, that addictive food or addictive substance, to come back and push the adrenals so that you do feel a little better. So you're essentially self-medicating, but the self-medicating causes the inflammation.
At the expense of your adrenals too.
Most food fads are at the expense of your adrenals. You feel good the first couple of weeks, you feel good maybe for a couple of months, but your adrenals are being pushed. So it's again back into that medical system model where you're using something to either intervene or suppress. And most foods can be used, especially fats. And this is a little confusing for those that have been doing keto diet or really high fat. That really pushes the adrenals. So you're self-medicating and you're avoiding those carbs, you're avoiding processed foods. There's all sorts of pieces that you are avoiding that are beneficial, but you're missing a lot of the very fine phytonutrients that long-term give you the best results in getting your health back and keeping your health and avoiding all of those age-old diseases. It's so powerful to recognize what pushes the adrenals or what causes you to self-medicate in your body so that you can come back to this really solid foundation where you don't need to self-medicate anymore. It's not just, feeling good in the short term. And I have to admit, a lot of my clients are like, really, this doesn't feel good. You're right. It doesn't feel good to detox 200 years of accumulation, but those things are passed to us from past generations. And so I look at 6 things. I look at the body as a whole, but we start physically because that's the thing we can get our hands on. But when it comes to really looking after your health, you want to protect your adrenals at all costs, because when they crash, it takes years to recover them, but it can also take years for them to get to that crash point. So understanding what you're doing when it comes to food or self-medicating, it's important so that you don't get to that point. But like I say, most fads today, they cause you to feel good in the short term because you are self-medicating, and it needs to be looked at as a whole. And I love to make sure that the body is looked at in a way that you're not healing it. The body's healing you. The body's healing itself. Can you tell how passionate I am about it? It's just a start. This whole food thing, we can simplify it so incredibly that it becomes profound. And if we do that, then the profound moves completely through our lives. And I'm a perfect example, but I've taken thousands and thousands of people through this process to the point where they're feeling better, they're healthier, they are more connected in their lives than they've ever been in their whole lives, even from when they were babies. Most of our babies are being born with deficits or with livers that aren't functioning well at all. I think in the US, we have come to just accept that. And to me, I'm not about aging gracefully from the very beginning. It's like, nope, let's not even age. Let's reverse that.
You mentioned 200 years of, reversal with some of this stuff. So obviously what you're talking about is some of the ways that our ancestors have processed food, and naturally that gets handed down to us in our genetics. Another thing that I'm wondering, though, is, let's take something like wheat. Like wheat in human history, it goes back millennia. And in previous eras, wheat was a staple. Now, would you agree with the fact that food quality and things like wheat in previous generations were much healthier, but because of the agricultural industrial complex, it's completely changed certain strains and certain foods to actually be quite harmful to us?
Deadly. Not all. There's some of the more ancient grains that are still beneficial, but their nutrient content has decreased significantly because of the farming practices and the need for providing food for people's families. If you're looking at grains, you're also looking at herbicides and pesticides. Some of them are contained within the grains now, so we can't even extract that out anymore, and it's causing lots of contamination. So we're ingesting these herbicides and pesticides, and it's causing extremely high levels of toxic heavy metals, which causes all sorts of cross-firing when it comes to the nervous system in our bodies. We're having this extremely high amount of mental illness. Well, toxic heavy metals are a huge part of that. When it comes to the food quality, it's definitely gone down because of those farming practices, because of the chemicals that are being used that aren't in alignment with our physical, energetic bodies. So it's a matter of knowing where to get it, or growing it yourself, or maybe just avoiding those pieces, because they're not high density nutrition anymore either, because the soils are depleted. We need to be, using old practices in order to allow those grains to pull up the nutrients that they used to 200 years ago.
Lisa's asking which grains are still okay.
So we're still looking at some of the older grains like millet and quinoa. They haven't been genetically modified the same way as regular wheats have. Sometimes you can do something like organic brown rice, or something like slow cook steel cut oats. Those still have some nutrients in them. If they're just rolled oats, all the nutrients are going to be, they're going to have escaped, or they're going to have eroded. So those grains can be beneficial in small amounts. So it's not just about lack of nutrition in grains. It's not just about the herbicides and pesticides that they're adding to it. It's all about our over-sanitization in our world, which causes us to have these very strong superbugs. Those very strong superbugs get into our bodies and bring us out of balance. Excuse me.
You drinking something strong there?
It's so interesting. I talk about these things now, and the energy, I feel it directly. Okay, I think I'm better. But these pieces that we're working with, we need to be able to look at it on a huge scale, on a big picture scale. Okay, more lemon water. It hurts my heart. It really does hurt my heart in the way that we've lost connection to ourselves and to what was provided to us, or what is still provided to us. And when you can pick something, when you're out on a walk, you're going to be getting so much more out of those few raspberries or those few berries than you will out of bowls and bowls and bowls of raspberries that you've purchased. So if you can do it for yourself, great. If you can't, you do the best that you can. And you recognize that your body is an energetic being and it's asking for something. And I'm sorry. I usually am more contained energetically, but I feel like your group is so ready. And I pick up on that intuitively, and it's affecting me. So sorry about that.
Yeah, it's a well-cultivated bunch that joins us every week. They're the real OGs in this, so they're quite sharp.
I hope that I'm not scary in passing this information, but it's going downhill really fast. The way foods are working, the way that food shortages are happening. That's how I know we're so disconnected, is when I hear about babies that don't have food. That's just devastating to me. And that tells me how far we've come away from nature, because it used to be that communities would come together and would feed the babies if there wasn't any food, or that the elders were able to pass to the youngers what it was that would sustain the babies if there wasn't breast milk available. So that tells me how far we've come away from it. And it's really important for us to stand up and take over our food again, bring it back home. Yeah.
We're lucky here in South Africa because there's just a richness of food grown locally, and so a lot of the produce there's farms right in the area that'll grow it. And, a lot of people think Africa, and there are famines and things, but the biggest issue actually is the fact that countries like China come in and they buy for, dollars for just huge acres of these plots of land that they'll just grow, and they'll ship the food back to China. So it's like the locals don't even get access to the food anymore. But the soil itself and the land itself is extremely fertile for growing.
And that's going to be, it's such a step down process when it comes to the foods that we're eating, because the farming practices have gone sideways, and the understanding about what feeds the body has gone sideways. Again, our adrenals need to be protected. There's so much going on in the world that if we can just do enough glucose from fruits and vegetables, we're going to be supporting our bodies in a way that there's no drug that could support it. There's no comparison as far as what we can use to protect our bodies in a natural glucose, not sugar, not processed sugar. We're not talking about cane sugar. We're talking about the glucose with all the phytonutrients that you get from just an apple, just an apple. And there's been so much fear pushed that a lot of people are fearful of fruit. But I'm going to encourage everybody to put a bowl of fruit out on your counter and grab it when you're in a hurry, because life is busy. Grab an apple, grab a banana, grab an orange, grab a kiwi, grab whatever fruit you can get your hands on, because that's actually clean fuel for your body compared to all these other fuels that come through and end up causing accumulation in your body. Again, that accumulation, if we come back to that 200 years of accumulation, we come back to when food started being processed and everybody started moving into the cities. And you have all this accumulation that's passed from mother and father to their children. And you have all these fuels that aren't clean that cause all of this toxicity, garbage essentially, and that garbage gets passed on to the younger generation. And that's why we have health issues that are increasing with every generation, because the garbage, imagine what it would be like if you have not taken out the garbage for, say, even 10 years in your home, but you want to renovate your kitchen. How are you going to do that if your kitchen is full of garbage? It's hard to imagine even doing something like that. You need to take everything out. So the body is trying to repair itself all the time because it's self-healing. But if there's all of that garbage in the way that came from the genetically modified, the herbicides, the pesticides, I don't even want to go into that. That's a whole other subject on its own as far as what we're exposed to every day. But what's it like for your body to repair if there's so much garbage in the way? It just can't do that. And so we want to work with the cleanest fuels available. And the biggest one is glucose from fruits and vegetables, honey and maple syrup. If we can stick to those for fuel, we're in a great way, because then we're not adding to the accumulation that we've accumulated over 200 years. Toxic heavy metals, we've found that they can be passed across the placental barrier. So that means that a mom that's carrying lots of heavy metals in her body, it passes to the baby. So a baby can be born with high toxic heavy metal loads. We're finding that chronic dehydration, that bioelectric aspect of water, that can actually be passed many generations. So a baby can already be born completely dehydrated. And then if you don't know how to use living water, you just are adding to the accumulation. We're finding that things like zinc deficiency, we don't have zinc in the soil anymore. So we need to move to different ground in order to get that zinc back, so that zinc deficiency can be passed many generations. And to me, that's another form of accumulation. It's an accumulation of a deficiency. So we're wanting to go back to those basics and clean up those deficiencies and clean up all that garbage, because then the health within can be expressed properly, because it's there. It's not gone. It's just there's only so much the body can do with so much garbage in the way.
So it sounds like, I guess more recently, there's been a lot of focus in the health industry on gut health. You know, that's the new thing. In the medical industry too, they're just waking up to this idea that gut health seems to matter. But, you know, from what you're saying though, like if our enzyme counts in our produce is exponentially lower and we're over-sanitizing, thus killing good bacteria that might be on a freshly picked apple. I once read a book by these raw foodies, and they said, don't, you know, if there's dirt on your fruit or vegetables, don't wipe it off, just eat it because it's got probiotics in it. And so can you speak to the deficiencies in gut health that you're seeing, especially from over-sanitization and lower enzyme counts?
It's everywhere. I can't tell you how much that contributes to lack of health, but it's not the most important thing. It's something that has caught on, but it's also still within the medical model, the medical system model, which takes the body apart. Now, the gut health cannot be healthy if the rest of the body is not addressed or the rest of the body is not healthy. And it's important in that you need to be able to have proper balance of bacteria, and that over-sanitization has caused an incredible uptick in the bacteria that's not super beneficial, but it needs to be there to balance, because even good bacteria, if it's not balanced, can go bad. So if it's out of balance, it's not going to be beneficial either. So we need all the bacteria in order to be present, all the probiotics, all the biotics to be there in order for this balance of life to be happening in the gut. Now, the gut can't be healthy if the liver is not healthy. So if we're focused on the gut health, we're missing the main key in the whole body that looks after the majority of the things that we're working with, which is the liver. And we don't even have tests medically. It's been so pulled apart and so pieced apart that even this whole gut push is just one piece. It's just one piece. It's not looked at in a way that the whole body is contributing to gut health. And the gut health being low affects the nervous system, affects the brain. But looking after the liver health is priority, because if you look after the liver health, then you're actually going to get proper enzymes that are going to help you digest your food. You're going to have better immune system in your gut so that you can keep balance of those biotics. And then you're also going to have storage capacity to bring all of those pieces together that you need in combination for your physical body. We all talk about protein, right? That's one of the biggest myths. It's so important to remember that your body needs a different protein combination than an animal that's meant to grow 300 to 500 pounds a year. Everybody's talking about, why am I overweight? Why am I overweight? Well, your body is getting this protein combination that's meant for that. You don't need to gain 300 pounds a year. So why not let your body put those amino acids, those protein pieces together in a way that serves your body best? It's actually hard because I'm not about any type of food. I'm not, okay, don't eat meat. I'm not a strict vegan. I'm not, any of that. But it's time for us to come back to listening to our bodies and recognizing that there's protein in apples. There's amino acids in apples. There's amino acids in potatoes. And if you clean up your liver, then there's capacity, there's space to store all the amino acids that you would need, and the body will put it together in a proper way for your body, what you need, what weight you want to maintain on a yearly basis. And if you can remember, I use this little meme. I wish I had it for you, but it's this big, huge gorilla. And he is just eating leaves. That's all he's doing. He's a plant eater, right? And there's a meerkat. He's standing down here up on his back legs looking at the gorilla and asking the gorilla, are you sure you're getting enough protein? Money oriented. If you look at the industries that provide a lot of protein, you're going to find a lot of money behind advertising that tell you that you need a lot of protein. It's not necessarily true. The best food, even for a weightlifter, is glucose. That's what builds the muscles. That's what helps you to develop the body that you're looking for, the health.
So I go to the gym 3 days a week, and I've been lifting progressively heavier and heavier weights. And, typically afterwards, I'll have a smoothie, with hemp protein, or I'll have some chicken, or something like that. But you're saying I could actually have fruit, and I could actually fuel muscle growth and the development of strength in a completely different way.
In a completely different way. Your hemp protein is fantastic. It just has high fat content, which means that your body's not going to be able to process glucose quite as well. So when there's a high fat content in the body, everyone talks about diabetes as being sugar oriented, right? Which when we talk about it brings down to glucose, but it's actually fat oriented. If you have too much fat in the bloodstream, diabetes too. Okay, I'm going to clarify. If you have too much fat in the system, your body no longer can process glucose properly. And that's where all these blood sugar spikes come from. It's not necessarily the sugar that causes the spikes. It's the fat that you took on before that. And what does the medical system say? They say, cut back on sugars. Well, this correlation between sugars and a blood spike, it's missing the fat that's in the bloodstream, or it's missing the fat that's been ingested, shortly before the sugar. So you'd be better off with a pumpkin smoothie, really great glucose content, really high calorie content. And then you're going to get both after your workout. So that could be your after workout smoothie. And then you're not going to be taking on the amount of fat that's going to stop you from absorbing your glucose.
Interesting. We have a comment here, and funny enough, because I was actually thinking of Andreas Moritz's liver and gallbladder detox when you're talking about the liver. But I just want to back up, because Lisa's asking a great question. What do you think of this liver and gallbladder detox cleanse? That's the one with the olive oil and the malic acid, I believe. What's your perspective on that?
So you remember those adrenals? If you're going to clean the liver and the gallbladder, you want to protect your adrenals, because otherwise you're counterproductive in cleaning up the liver properly. If you have pushed the adrenals, then you might have gotten rid of a little bit of something. But what happens is you put the liver into shock, and then you add all this adrenaline that might not be in the proper combination that's super corrosive. So the liver might have purged a little, but all of a sudden the liver's in shock and it's getting hit with all this corrosive adrenaline, which is just as hard or maybe harder on the liver than what was being cleansed in the liver in the first place. So there's lots and lots of liver cleanses out there, but if you're looking to really reclaim your health, you're not looking for short-term fixes. You're looking for the long-term pieces that are going to allow your liver to not be in shock, because sometimes it can cause the liver to go into shock where it's not functioning properly for months afterwards. Yeah. Because it's having to process out all of that corrosive adrenaline. So you look for things that can help you purge. And I use the lemon honey water, the living water, every morning to make sure my liver has purged out everything that it collected up overnight. That way, I give my liver this very gentle cleanse every morning. I can't do I can't imagine doing that much oil, period, at once. But it's about thinking about the whole body, not just one piece at a time. We have to come out of this medical system model that pieces the body up and forgets, okay, I'm going to cleanse my liver and gallbladder, but I've forgotten about the adrenals. I've forgotten about the nervous system. I've not addressed the lining of the digestive system, or all the ammonia that's in the tissues, because I haven't been digesting for a long time. So I'm not keen on it. And I'm not going to give you a hard time if you do that, because I don't have any judgment. But if you're truly looking to reclaim health, you want to be more gentle. Nature can be really tough. It can be. But for the most part, nature moves slower. Nature's principles are much more interconnected. They're not pieced up the same way that the medical system model causes us to go.
That makes me relax. Just hearing that, because I read that. I never tried it. I had the book, and I'm reading this thing, and I'm like, this sounds like an awful weekend. Drinking olive oil and then all sorts of stuff coming out of your body, and there's all these images that look like they're out of a horror movie. Yeah. So I like hearing that if you're gentler on yourself, it kind of takes the whole body into consideration. You're not just trying to isolate one organ and trying to punch that in a way at the expense of the adrenals. This one came in a bit earlier though. And Kathy's saying, our skies in California are so contaminated. I know this is global. Concerns over growing outdoors. Thoughts?
You want to remember that dirt is a buffer, especially when you're using dirt. It's a buffer. So nature knows how to filter a lot of that out. It's very concentrated now. So that's why I like to use practices in my life that are cleansing on an ongoing basis in a really gentle way. I push a little bit in the beginning when I'm trying to get rid of the largest amount of accumulation, but then after that, we call it getting out of kitchen jail. So we go into kitchen jail in order to get it all cleaned up. And then we come out of kitchen jail and we just maintain with a little bit of cleansing on an ongoing basis so that we can deal with those things we're exposed to. Plants are a buffer too. Things like sea vegetables, say, they're nature's filter. So they'll pick up things like toxic heavy metals, but they won't release them. Plants will buffer for you to some degree, not completely because they're overloaded and overwhelmed too. But as long as you're eating as much fresh as you can, as long as you're living somewhat of a cleansing lifestyle, most of the time the body's going to be able to deal with that. So you don't have to be quite so concerned. You can actually relax into that nature is doing its job and the body knows how to cleanse most of those things out. There's a few things I tell you myself and my network are having difficulty with because we are exposed to a few things intervention-wise, medical system-wise, that we don't have really great information yet how to detox those things. We're helping people manage it, but we don't have a way to detox some of those things. And so we're still looking and we're still working with things, but for the most part, your body can handle it if you just know how to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're referring to the Fauci ouchie. That's a good name for it. Or the little thing that's been going in the arm and has been on the TV quite a bit, right?
Yeah. I have quite a few clients that, are dealing with that now. They're dealing with it, and we approach it a little bit differently, but we're finding success to some degree. It's just a matter of how overloaded your body is, period. If your body is really overloaded, it's going to be harder. Yeah.
I know you also have you're very intuitive with picking up on people. What have you seen in people that have received that medicalized treatment? What kind of changes are you noticing?
So, I talk about health being an innate piece. It's just something we have. I talk about peace or that okayness of who we are being something that's within us. It's not something we have to bring in any way. These accumulative layers that cover that and cause us not to be able to connect with that or cause us not to be able to see that, I see an uptick in that. So it's like instead of just one layer a year, it's 10 or 20 or 30 layers to stop us from being able to connect with that. So it's heart-wrenching. I'm liable to go into tears again because of it. And yet my job is to be detached and help as many individuals, come back to recognizing health in the way that works for them. But yeah, it's many, many layers of covering that up, of not being able to access it properly.
Yeah.
So
it tends to compound that disconnection or the buffering from our own innate life force, our own innate vitality and the body's intelligence.
Yeah. And if you have, because of fear, or because you thought you were being socially responsible, participated, I just really encourage you to do some more homework. None of us are going to do the research at the level of some of the researchers, what they've done, But there's a lot more information out now than there was. Even though there's a lot of censoring going on, you can still gain access to both sides of the story so that you can discern and choose for yourself. And there are ways to clean it up. And it's not just about that either, because again, if you have lots of accumulation of garbage or toxins or whatever it is, the medicalization can cause even more so that. But if you've cleaned up your body, then that much of it, you're not going to notice the same way as. So imagine that every day, in order to go to the kitchen, you have to carry 10 buckets with you, 10 buckets that are right full. You might still have that one bucket of medicalization, but if you get rid of the other 9 buckets, what's it like to go to the kitchen with one bucket instead of have to carry 10? Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of doing what we can do to clean up the system so that it can handle whatever else we're exposed to. But the information is showing us that it's not quite what they said it was. So in the beginning, I didn't know. I was off. I stood off from it because I didn't have enough information, but there's a lot more out now. So do your homework again. Don't sit on what it was.
Yeah.
What you thought it was. Yeah.
So Susan is asking, what's your suggestion to begin detoxing? And I think that's a great segue into something you prepared for the listeners of this show, which I thought was really kind of you. And so I'll just have Micah share the screen with that so we can take a look at what you're offering specifically to the people that are watching this broadcast today.
Absolutely. I have worked with thousands of people, and what I've done is taken the foundational pieces that are beneficial for everyone and put them into a program so that we can simplify what does it look like when it comes to how to eat, what to eat, what does it look like to come back to nature, how do we use hydration in order to clean up the chronic dehydration that has been passed to us for generation after generation so that our electrical system works properly. If you're chronically dehydrated, you can bet that your nervous system is working at a very high hot level, and that's going to cause all sorts of burning up for you. So this program is a 6-month program. It's set up in modules. It's set up with information that you can download and you can work through at your pace. You don't have to do it in 6 months. You can download it and take as long as you want. It's step.
Scroll up a bit, Micah. I just want to show everybody too that Judy's really cool. Right where it says get started now. So a little bit further down, just a little bit further down, right where that button is. So Judy has changed her price to by donation for 6 months. I mean, that right there is so cool because, I think we've all explored donation in this community or choosing your contribution, but that alone follows a more natural form of economics. And so not only is it about bringing food back to nature, but it's about bringing all of life back to nature. So I really commend you on that, Judy, being able to offer your knowledge in a way that it's accessible for everyone.
Absolutely. It's not mine. It doesn't belong to me. So you can take it and use it. And what it can help you do is decrease the accumulation in your body so you can hear more about what your body's asking of you versus having to look outside yourself, versus having to go internet searching and being buried in mountains of fads and food ideas. But it's set up for you so that you can work through this in a way that's gentle, but super effective. I'm not one of those practitioners that says, oh, it's going to take 10 years. It's like not even close. If it's going to take that long, I'm not going to even do it. But it's so powerful in just stepping you through the pieces that are going to help you think differently about how you're nurturing yourself, about how you're giving your body what it needs so that it can do what it's meant to do. And when I keep saying that, but what is your body meant to do? It's meant to express health. It's meant to express strength and vitality and energetics that you walk into a room, it affects everything. And your ability to get rid of all the crap that's on top of it is how you're going to avoid aging. You know, you don't have to be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on anti-aging creams and anti-aging interventions, because your body knows how to express that as long as you get the garbage out of the way. You can renovate all you want within if the garbage is out of the way. So it's a matter of coming back to nature, which means that the body doesn't age the same way.
It's funny you say that, because a friend of mine once, she showed me this woman, I think she lived in Florida. She was 72 years old, and her husband was about the same age. And she had been eating fruit and juicing for 36 years. And though she was 72, she looked like she was about my age or maybe 40. But her husband just ate a normal diet. So they're sitting side by side. They're both the same age, and this woman looks like she's 40, and this guy, you know, he's kind of hunched over, and he's kind of got the really old sort of, you know, person that's all kind of clogged up and everything. And it's just such an interesting contrast. And they still love each other, you know, despite the fact that they have completely different diets. There's something else that connects them. And so I thought that was a really sweet contrast, and at the same time acceptance of that, because often what can happen with food is people tend to silo, and they tend to get very tribal about diets and that type of thing. You know, I used to be vegan for a while, and, you know, I used to then, you know, judge people and all that kind of stuff. And now, you know, I'm very much more flexible. And I realized diet is an area that we're a lot of the time confused on. And so to have you on this show, offering, you know, the things that you've come across and worked with in a way that's very accessible for people, that really empowers them with simplicity, is truly a gift. And, you know, everybody in the comments is saying such kind things. We're saying, this is so precious. You know, this looks so good. Kathy's saying, excited to participate, along with my focus on wellness, beginning with self. Like, this is really an amazing offering that you've got here. And it's been wonderful chatting with you about some of this stuff, clarifying, bantering back and forth about health. Is there anything you'd like to share before we conclude? Is there anything else you'd like to contribute?
If I can do it, you can do it. So if I can come from that place where I'm experiencing bucket loads of symptoms, and I'm aging to the point where when I'm 20, I'm feeling like I'm 80. And now in my 50s, I can feel like I'm younger than I ever have been in my life, stronger, still reversing aging. Like, I don't know what it will look like 10 years from now, because it's still reversing. If I can do that, then you can too. And it's so incredibly expanding to recognize there's so much more than what we thought was possible. The more you get rid of the toxins, the more efficient your body's going to be, and the less food you're going to need. So everybody right now around me is quite worried about food shortages. And I'm like, I don't even consider it, because my body needs this much compared to this much, because it's working so efficiently. So I'm not worried about getting gobs of food, because I need a few leaves a day instead. So your ability to come into your sovereignty is about looking at this holistic piece, where your body isn't just physical, it's mental, it's emotional, and it's spiritual. And all of those aspects are going to be so much more efficient if you address them in a natural way, if you bring it back to nature, because you are nature. And if you're working with nature, then you can also reverse all of this, all of these things that my clients have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars before they found this work. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in the medical system, and they're still not finding answers. So instead, we come back to nature, and we don't have to look for the answers anymore. We don't have to.
It's not just the medical system, though. I mean, there's detox coaches out there. I've seen some that are $40,000 for 3 months of mentoring. And, you know, and they brag about getting having clients spend 6 figures on their treatments. And for me, that seems completely untenable for most people. And it shouldn't be that only premium clients that have money are the ones that get access to good health.
To me, that's completely taking advantage of a primal piece that we already have.
Yeah.
It's so important to remember that you already have that health. It's just a matter of getting everything out of the way to express it. And I feel for those individuals because they're looking for a way to work through it. But there's this piece about taking advantage of what you deserve in this moment, right here and right now, that's natural, that, you know, I'm still paying for I'm still asking people to pay for my time. I haven't moved over to a donation model, a more natural model with my time yet. But this information I would love for you to, you know, share with everybody you can find. And they might not hear you yet, but work with the information for a year and prove it to yourself, and then they'll see it. My husband was a perfect example. I worked with this information for years, and then he finally went, oh heavens, like, what are you doing? I sure wish I had started with you years ago. Right? Because now he's starting, and you're a perfect example. You will be your walking billboard that helps others to jump on board and bring it closer to nature as well. It's sad, and it's part of the world. We're in this transition still, right? Where I'm not really eating food anymore because my body is so efficient that it absorbs energy. I can look at a food, I can smell a food, and I'm nurtured, because food is a very dense form of energetic delivery. And our bodies can get so efficient that we can take that on. So I don't worry about food supply. I don't worry about the whole money piece. I don't have to worry about all of that. I probably could build a house without a kitchen and I would be more than happy. But at the same time, we start with food. Let's just bring it back to nature and work our way towards something that's incredibly freeing and so sovereign, because then we don't need the systems that are meant to perpetuate themselves and cost so darn much. Like, who needs to work all the time? Most of us, because we have to afford the medical system, and we have to afford this food system, and we have to all these systems. But what happens if we drop ourselves out of them because we understand nature's principles? We use our food to come back to nature, to the nature that we are. It's amazing. It's an amazing journey, and it's not easy. And that's why there's 6 months, so that you can be supported. That's why I do those bi-weekly calls, so that you can get your answers in a group format. I still do one-on-one sessions. You can access them within the membership area if that's necessary for you, but you deserve to be free of all these systems that keep you squirrely. It's just amazing. Let's just relax. Just like you said, it's like, let's just relax.
I'm fully with you there, Judy.
Enough already. And I love all your heart opening that you've shared today, everybody that's participating. I see that and I appreciate it. And let's get it out there. Let's get you feeling better and knowing that you're doing what it takes in order to express more of you in a healthy way. For sure.
Amazing. Well, I think that was the cherry on the cake, if that's okay to eat cake anymore. You really ended it beautifully there, Judy. And I think everybody here is so appreciative to have you, and the comments really reflect that. So thank you for taking your time, coming out here today, and also offering us a way to go on this journey and really explore health in greater detail. It's been a true pleasure. And we'll have to chat again soon sometime. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it. Take very good care. And I agree, you are glowing. Watch the fasting. It can work your adrenals over too. Okay.
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 All right. So, folks, that was a wonderful, wonderful interview with Judy. And I just want to say, be sure to check out her link and her material. It's graciously offered by donation, which is incredible. in future shows, I do want to know what kind of stuff you want to see more of on this show. So please take the Octave Leap poll, which should be in the description below. If not, you can go to this link here. And it's just a simple one question thing. What do you want to see more of on the show? Also, if you want to stay tuned about future occurrences, when I post cryptocurrency videos, when I have live streams, the Telegram group is really the best way to stay in touch. It's not a chat group. It's just a group where I make announcements, but I will always tell the Telegram group first. These are the people who are most loyal and most eager to part of this Octave Leap experience. This is really for everyone. This is a community that I see growing, and so I want people to have input. I want to encourage you to come out and watch these live so you can be part of the dialogue. You can be part of this experiment that's kind of growing on its own. So big round of applause for Judy and for all of you for coming out today and asking incredible questions and showing your love and appreciation. I will see everybody again soon. Take care.
This is Octave Leap. Innovation, regeneration, and human optimization.